Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Well, today is a rant as opposed to reviewing a product. Now, I've recently reviewed the OM system Olympus OM-1 and I found that a great camera. I've also got the OM system OM-5 camera here. So I am, quite a fan of the Olympus brand, or the original Olympus brand, and it's the reason why I bought the Olympus OM-1. But I came up with a problem with it. Now, the images that came off the lens and the camera is fantastic. I've got no problem with the camera, the sensor. I think the whole, the whole package is actually really good, apart from one major flaw that the camera has, and I've had to send it back. I'm really glad that I actually got it through Wex Photographic. Their returns policy is fantastic. If you return it within 45 days, you get a full refund, so not an issue at all, and they did. They're a brilliant company. Now, the OM system OM-1, great camera, but I decided to update the firmware. I think it's really useful and the right thing to do to update firmware on all your cameras because it increases new features, it sorts out bugs that might be in the camera. So I think it's really important, anyone who has any of these mirrorless cameras, is to update the firmware. So I didn't see it being an issue. Unfortunately, with the OM system update, you have to do it via a computer. You can't download the firmware, put it onto a memory stick, be it SD card, CF Express card, whatever your camera takes, and then put that in the camera to update it. You can't do that. You've got to plug the camera into your computer and update it that way. Fair enough, okay. It's got USB-C on the camera, plugged it into my 14-inch MacBook Pro. It's the, pretty new model, M1 chip. Is it M2 M1 chip? I think it's the M1 chip MacBook Pro. Plugged it into that, it recognised it, started to download the firmware, waited and waited and waited, and it basically bricked the camera. It wouldn't do the update. I wasn't aware of that during the process of doing it. Turned the camera on and off, took the battery in and out, to no avail. It didn't make any difference whatsoever. It completely and totally bricked it. So I couldn't use it. Now, when I've done some research after the event, hindsight is great, isn't it? We always do our research after the event, but I've done my research after the event, and on a forum, I think it was Micro Four Thirds Rumours site, that OM System have put on the Japanese website that the software doesn't work particularly well with the latest MacBook Pro due to security updates, and all Macs, and not just MacBooks, but MacBooks, MacBook Pros, Mac Minis, whatever it might be. But because of security updates, the software doesn't work. They advise that you don't use it. But why is that not said on the American OM system website or the page where you download the firmware from? It doesn't say it anywhere. I was not aware of that. When I connected it to the computer, no message came up to say, be conscious or be careful, this may brick your camera or whatever, no warnings whatsoever. Really, really annoyed. And I think that's a really big issue that OM system have here, is they've got software that runs on the computer, but it's not designed or it's not designed for the latest operating system of Mac, which means it bricks the camera. Now, it might just be me. Maybe I've done it wrong. I don't know. But judging by other people's comments, I hadn't done it wrong. There's many people that have suffered the same fate. Luckily, it was well within the returns policy, so I could return it straight away for a full refund. It wasn't an issue. But I wanted to keep the camera because I actually really enjoyed using the camera. It's a really, really nice camera. And the images are fantastic. I mean, it is only a 20 megapixel sensor, but the images are still nice and sharp. The clarity is really good. Paired with this lens, I've got the OM system 12 to 40, which is a 24 to 80 f2.8 Pro lens. I've got it fitted to my OM5 now, but when I use that on the OM1, I got glorious, sharp, detailed images. I will put on my website, on my Flickr page, these images so you can actually take a look at them there. I will leave a link in the description where you can find these images. But my issue really, and this video is really just to say how poor for OM systems not to let people know that you don't use the latest version of a MacBook because it might, or any Mac, because it might well brick your camera, and B, why can't we do what all the other manufacturers do, enable you to download it to an SD card, or as I say, any form of memory card, whichever the camera takes, and upload the firmware that way. I've just uploaded the firmware on my Fuji X-H2, no problem whatsoever. Put it on an SD card, put it in the camera, and updated the firmware. It was not an issue. I don't understand why OM System are doing it this way. And I'm wondering, are OM System really keen to support some of their older cameras? I mean, it's only 2 years old, so it's not exactly an old camera, but I guess in modern day terms that is old. And they've also said that they're not going to be updating the firmware with new features, autofocus algorithms and what have you. And I guess they're doing that because they don't want to butcher the sales of the OM-1 Mark II. But that's really unfair, because other manufacturers, Panasonic particularly, do update the firmware, and they do introduce features in some of the older cameras that are in the newer cameras. So I'm not so sure what OM System's end game is here. I'm not sure what their plan is, but I don't see it as being a great plan. And it's really put me off the OM System brand and the OM System, you know, in the future. Now, the OM5, I daren't update the firmware, if they do release any new firmware for the OM5, because I've got a Mac and that's likely to brick it. I don't use PCs. I think I've got one knocking around somewhere, so I probably would have to use that. But it seems, you know, crazy in this day and age that, you know, they're not employing the people to keep the software up to date, so that the cameras, you know, work absolutely fine when you do connect them. I think it'd be better if they use the system which other manufacturers do, where you put it onto an SD card. But yeah, poor on you, OM System. You've lost a customer here, certainly because I can't update the firmware. No other reason. It's not the quality of the cameras. They're fantastic quality. They're weather sealed. They take great images. You know, you can see here, the images are fantastic that these cameras take. The autofocus is great. You know, everything else about the OM System brand is good. But I'm just wondering, are they more interested in the industrial side of the camera brand rather than the consumer side of the camera brand? So they're not putting a lot of effort into, certainly into supporting the cameras that they're releasing. So there we go. That's just my rant on the OM System brand. I won't be buying into the OM System brand anymore because I don't trust it, basically. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. Sorry, it's a bit of a rant. I'm sure I'm going to get some Olympus fanboys and OM System fanboys leaving comments in the comment section. And I hope they do, because I do hope it is something that I've done wrong. But if I've done something wrong, then many others have done the same thing. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned for future videos related to video photography, podcasting, and more positive news. Cheers for now. Bye.